7, Pet Bluit di Radio Neru Tibau.
In this edition, we review the heavyweight situation and check out the most likely challengers. We talk to Kali Knutzer about age and what it does to a fighter. We start the countdown for the super fight between Brian Mitchell and Tony Lopez. And take a trip down memory lane with Jake Tooley.
Welcome to the world of boxing. And to nobody's great surprise, heavyweights have hogged the headlines in the past few weeks. Buster Douglas, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson and George Foreman have all had their fair share of media mileage. But squeezed in between all the heavyweight hype has been an item of news that has excited South Africans. Brian Mitchell and Tony Lopez will finally meet in a WBA-IBF unification title match.
Ja, dit lyk of al die groot struikelblokke uit die weg geruim is deur die promotors en dat die geveg wel in Februarie sal plaasvind. Die Arco Arena in Sacramento, Kalifornië is reeds aangewys as die plek waar die geveg sal plaasvind en dit lyk of Brian Mitchell weer eens sy titel in die leeuse hok sal moet verdedig.
Mind you, after 11 world title defences, I imagine Mitchell is accustomed to fighting in the other fella's backyard. But for the moment, let's go back to the heavyweights and that astonishing fight for the undisputed championship of the world between Buster Douglas and Evander Holyfield. Ringsiders could hardly believe their eyes when Douglas came to the ring grossly overweight, and his poor physical condition clearly gave Holyfield an advantage he really didn't deserve. Critics claim Douglas threw only one meaningful punch, a left jab. And look what happened when he did.
Buster Douglas laat neer sy gekry toe. Deur uit die ander hoek uit.
Ek kan sien duidelik dat Holyfield daardie opening blitsig raak gesien. En die regterhand was daar gewees.
Dis nou
het nie 'n oomblik gehuiwer nie.
Van bo af.
Jy sien daar, hy daar gesien die opening. Hy het nie 'n oomblik gehuiwer om daardie hou te slaan nie, want hy het gesien dat Douglas is heeltemal.
It's doubtful if even Holyfield thought he could win this easily. But now that he has, let's take a look at the men who are hot on his heels.
Daar is eenmaal na George Foreman verwys as vet en 40, maar dit lyk of alles gereed is vir die 42-jarige bokser om sy eerste kans te kry om die titel in te palm. Hy is steeds onoorwonne na 25 gevegte sedert hy in 1987 'n terugkeer tot boks gemaak het. Dit was 'n ongelooflike terugkeer en dit lyk of hy enige teestander groot hoofberekens kan besorg. Hy is natuurlik so stadig soos 'n os en gaan selfs swaarder wees as Douglas, maar al die kenners stem saam dat hy 'n kans het om teen Holyfield te wen as gevolg van sy slaandkrag.
And if Foreman doesn't turn the trick, this man surely will. Despite his loss to Douglas in Tokyo, Mike Tyson is still the most feared fighter in the division, and at the age of 24, still young enough to regain the title. Thanks to the Douglas defeat, Tyson has lost his aura of invincibility, but he still hits awfully hard, and only a fool would underrate his chances against Holyfield.
Sou ons aanvaar dat Holyfield verby Foreman en Tyson gaan kom, is hierdie die man wat vorentoe vir hom probleme kan besorg. Sommige beskryf hom as die ongekroonde kampioen. Razor Ruddock is sy groot kans ontneem toe Tyson hom aan 'n titelgeveg onttrek het as gevolg van 'n borsprobleem. Van toe af heep die groot Kanadees steeds om Tyson terug in die kry te kry of die persoon wat die titel hou.
Even South Africa's Pierre Coetzee could be in the running somewhere down the road, although much will depend on his marketability as a heavyweight in the United States and whether his backers can overcome the objections of the World Boxing Council.
Pierre Coetzee's got to work his way into
The best way to probably verbalise it is that 6-7 months ago, a possible Pierre Coetzee world heavyweight title fight would have been pure conjecture. Today we're sitting in a situation where it is really a very real possibility. The factors which make it real, it is in fact, as you said, we have a very good relationship with the Duva camp. In fact, I'm leaving tonight and I will be speaking to them, but predominantly on Mitchell Lopez. but we are going to touch on a possible Coetzee fight. The other thing is that Coetzee has a high ranking in the IBF, and of course we are confidently now expecting that he will be ranked by the WBA as well.
In die stoel vandag, of ook in die hot seat, soos wat ons praat hier in the world of boxing, is ons oud swaargewig kampioen van Suid-Afrika, Kali Knoetser. Kali, kom ons praat eerstens oor die swaargewig boksafdeling van die wêreld. Jy weet, toe Mike Tyson daar was, het dit baie goed gegaan met die afdeling en hy was die kampioen gewees. En nou was Buster Douglas daar gewees, hy is nou van die toneel af, Evander Holyfield is nou daar. Hoe sien jy die hele swaargewig afdeling op die oomblik?
Ja, nee, om jou werklik wat te sê, Dion, patheties as jy daarna kyk. Toe Mike Tyson daar was, as hy weer oefen en hy's fiks en so en dan gaan dit weer net hy wees dan, soos jy sê, dan is hy weer bo, maar met Douglas wat reg was vir Tyson destyds is waar geweest, maar Douglas toe hy nou teen Holyfield beklei het, was patheties. Hy was swak, hy was oorgewig. Jy weet, ek lyk beter as hy. Ek dink ek sal hom pak gee as hy langer as 3 rondes hou, maar ek dink na die 3de ronde gaan hy my opvoeter.
Kali, jy het nou gepraat van Buster Douglas en ook van Evander Holyfield, maar wat ek nou graag wil weet is sou mense nou moet sê dat Holyfield nie 'n goeie swaargewig kampioen is van die wêreld.
Nee, as jy kyk na Holyfield, sy voorbereiding, die manier wat hy hom uitgeslaan het, hy het sy huiswerk gedoen. Nee, hy is 'n goeie kampioen. En ek dink enige man wat teen hom te staan gekom sal sy storie moet ken. Nee, ek dink hy's 'n ware kampioen. Hy's in elk geval baie beter kampioen as wat Douglas is.
En nou die volgende vraag, George Foreman, die man van 40 jaar en ouer op die oomblik. Ek dink hy's 42 en hy het nou met 'n verskriklike terugkeerpoging in boks ingekom. Hy het nou ook 'n kans om teen Holyfield te boks. Wat dink jy kan hier gebeur?
Nee, jy praat nou eintlik van die seniors. Jy weet, George Foreman is een van die senior boksers. Nee, hy het 'n baie goeie kans. Na ons Suid-Afrikaanse beheerraad gesê het, Stankers Zulu, dit is patetiese boks toe hy begin boks het, maar nou na 25 gevegte lyk dit of hy weer wêreldkampioen word. Nou praat hulle anderste. Nee, ek dink vir die belangstelling in boks is dit 'n goeie ding. Om te wys dat sport, boks nog die hoof, die kroon van sport is dit 'n goeie ding. En ek dink hy het 'n kans. Ek weet nie oor die lang rondes nie, maar ek dink as hy hom binne so 6 rondes vir Holyfield in die slaap gesit, kan hy die ding doen.
Kali, het lyk vir my jy het 'n besliste mening oor boksers oor 40 jaar en ook 'n senior afdeling vir boksers. Vertel ons 'n bietjie daarvan asseblief.
Ek vra net vir jou een ding. Kyk, George Foreman, al ons manne wat al 'n bietjie ou kant se kant toe staan, is ons hare val uit en so, maar ons moet maar maak George Foreman, ons sny sommer al die hare af, jy weet, dan lyk jy in elk geval weer jonk. Nee, dis senior boks, dis senior golf. Van senior golf begin op die skerm verskyn en so aan, is dit absoluut, die mense kom kyk dan, daar's persoonlikhede, daar's mense wat kan gesels. Dis mense wat karakter aan die sport gee, soos Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Lee Trevino, die mense. Nou vra ek vir jou, Muhammad Ali kan nie terugkeer na boks maak nie, hy is sieklik, maar ek is gesond. Gerrie Coetzee is gesond. Wie is die beheerraad om vir my te sê, ek mag nie 'n lisensie kry nie, ek is gesond. Beroepsboks is 'n werk, dis nie meer 'n sport nie. Wie is die regering wat vir die beheerraad sê, julle moet dit doen, om vir my te sê, ek is te oud om te werk? Ek vra jou net daai vraag.
Kali, dit is so jy sien jouself nog as 'n man wat nog heelwat dinge kan doen in die senior boks kry.
Kyk na my, ek is gesond, ek lyk nog goed, ek het al my tande, my oë, ek het alles. Kyk my lyf, ek lyk baie goed. My medies is reg, my sertifikate, my oë, my ore. Al wat swak is aan my is my golf deesdae. Maar verder mekeer ek niks.
En dan net 'n laaste vraagie, Kali. Dit gaan oor ons Suid-Afrikaanse boksers, Johnny Deploy en Pierre Coetzee. Daar is nou sprake dat hulle ook teen Evander Holyfield of 'n swaargewig kampioen van die wêreld te staan kan kom.
Ja, maar Dion, jy weet, nou die dag toe ek oor hulle twee iets gesê het, toe wil die se afrigters my afslag. Toe sê hulle, hoe kan ek dit sê wat hulle in al die jare opbou? Hoe kan ek afbreek? Maar ek sê nog steeds, Coetzee moet sy verdediging opknap. Johnny Deploy moet van afrigter verander, want Johnny Deploy het baie handspoed. En as handspoed te dou uitslaan, maar ek sê, as Johnny Deploy van afrigter verander, kan hy 'n groot kampioen word. Pierre Coetzee, sy verdediging opknap, kan hy 'n groot kampioen word. Maar hulle moet net leer om 'n bietjie te praat, hulle is stil.
Kali, baie dankie dat jy met ons gepraat het, maar met jou praatvermoë moet ek sê, is daar nog niks fout.
Niks, ek sê vir jou, ek is reg.
They call him the Tiger, and few fighters have been more aptly nicknamed than Tony Lopez. Not only does he come to the ring wearing imitation Tiger trunks, he has clawed his way to victory in 36 of his 38 fights. Lopez has twice held the RBF Junior Lightweight title and would like nothing better than to add the WBA crown to his collection, which explains why he's anxious to meet Brian Mitchell in a unification title match.
Party mense sê Lopez se kakebeen is verdag, maar die IBF-kampioen het van die vloer af opgestaan om Rocky Lockridge te klop en het ook 'n platslaan oorleef om John Molina met punte in hulle eerste geveg te klop. 'n Wedprysmaker van Las Vegas, Herbie Lambeck, beskryf Lopez as 'n soliede werker wie se hart nog nooit onder verdenking was nie. Daar's dus geen pryse vir 'n voorspelling oor wie van Lopez of Mitchell as gunsteling deur die toue gaan klim nie. Albei boksers sal sterk ondersteuning hê.
I think Brian Mitchell is a very underrated champion. And I'm very, very surprised that so many South Africans have made the most disparaging remarks about him. As a matter of fact, I was having a drink with Norman Canali the other day, and an elderly gentleman came up to me and said he didn't think anything of Mitchell. Now that surprises me. Here's a boy, Brian Mitchell, who fought in the townships. Sometimes he was the only white boxer on the tournament, and I was one of the only whites watching him. I saw him in the townships. He had some tough, hard fights against some very good black boxers. He had his only defeat was in the townships. And the only two fights he's failed to win have been in the townships. And he comes out of the townships after 5 years, wins a world title, defends it 11 times in different countries under very difficult circumstances, and yet he's decried by so many South Africans. I cannot understand it. To me, Brian Mitchell is a great champion, and I say that he'll not only beat Lopez, he will stop him, because Lopez likes to put on the pressure. He comes forward, and that will suit Brian down to the ground. I think Brian will counter him. I know that Lopez is reputed to be a good puncher, and he is a good puncher. But I don't think he's going to stop Mitchell. And if he walks into Brian Mitchell, he might get stopped himself. One's got to see whether he can take the pressure as well as apply it. And you know, it gives me the impression, I may be wrong, it gives me the impression he's rather a fleshy fighter. Anyway, I personally think Mitchell will beat Lopez, and I sincerely hope he does, because then he'll crown his career, which has been an excellent career, with a very worthy win. And I think then, I hope, all South Africans will recognise him for what he is, a great champion.
His home was among the rolling hills of Zululand on the Natal North Coast, just a stone's throw from Empangeni. His gym was a garage adjoining the house of his manager-trainer, Temba Mitiani, and often he would spar on the front lawn of the house. His ambition was to become a champion, and in winning the Natal middleweight title, Donald Gamani convinced many he had the potential to become another Tap-Tap Makatini. Good wins over Brian Herman and useful middleweights like Blessing Masinga and the hard-hitting Joseph Shabalala set Gamani on the road to a South African title fight with Charles Oosthuizen.
I can say I was influenced by Tap-Tap Makatini and Muhammad Ali. As when I was youngster, I used to hear about them. I started at the age of 17. Before that, I was playing soccer. I was a good striker, because I used to score many goals. And then at school, I began training boxing.
Daar was baie mense wat gevoel het die 20-jarige belovende bokser het meer afgebyt van die koek as wat hy kon kou toe hy Charles Oosthuizen om die SA-titel uitgedaag het. En skielik, na 'n goeie begin in die geveg, het sake vir hom baie skeef begin loop. Die jong bokser het reeds baie seer gekry toe die skeieregter die geveg in die 6de ronde gestaak het. En toe Ngumane van geweldige hoofpyne begin kla in die kleedkamer, is hy na die hospitaal gehaas waar hy 'n breinoperasie ondergaan het. Dis jammer dat Donald Ngumane nie weer sal boks nie. 'n Belovende loopbaan is kort geknip voordat dit tot sy reg kon kom.
Eight years after it was founded by Texas millionairess Josephine Abercrombie, the Houston Boxing Association looks as though it will be closing down because of financial losses. The promotional body produced 3 champions in Frank Tate, Calvin Grove and Orlando Canizales. It is thought that Canizales' contract, which guarantees him $150,000 per fight, has led to the financial collapse.
Dingaan Tubela was die eregas tydens 'n glansryke funksie in Johannesburg toe sy WBO wêreldtitel gordel amptelik aan hom oorhandig is. Tubela, sy afrigter Norman Slabane en sy promotor Tinus Strydom het almal 'n paar woorde gesê.
I was very pleased seeing those lot of people waiting for us at the airport. It really made me feel like, no, we've really done it, because it was the only time when I realized that, hey, Ugandans made it when he came back.
Wel, ek vertrek op die 28ste na Miami, waar die wêreldboksingse kongres geplaasvind dan. Dan gaan die ganse toekoms bespreek met die beheerliggaam in Miami. Ons hoop om te verdedig vroeg in Februarie maand volgende jaar. Sal die Ghana ons eerste titel geveg hê, hopelik in Suid-Afrika. As hy sal goedkeuring kry by die WBO. Ek glo nie sal 'n groot probleem wees nie. Ek dink die probleem sal miskien wees dat sekere groepe in Suid-Afrika miskien die geveg nie sal toelaat nie. Maar as hulle dit nie sou toelaat nie, sal ons wel in die buiteland gaan verdedig.
George Foreman's one-round knockout of Terry Anderson in London became the first fight to be shown on television in Norway for 33 years. The decision to lift the ban on professional boxing came only days after WBO cruiserweight champion Magna Hovner complained about his difficulty in finding sponsorship because boxing hadn't been shown on TV in Norway since 1957.
A powerful right that was set up by the left, right on the button. Anderson is quickly history.
Sugar Ray Leonard, die man wat al 5 keer wêreldkampioen was, is deur die Amerikaanse subskripsie TV-diens Home Box Office as bokskommentator afgedank. Die rede is waarskynlik Leonard se volgende geveg teen Terry Morris wat deur Showtime uitgesaai gaan word. Home Box Office is nie die kans gegee om die regte vir hierdie geveg te bekom nie en het in 'n verklaring gesê dat onder sulke omstandighede dit nie wenslik is dat Leonard meer vir hulle werk.
Latest in the long line of boxers who are turning to the stage and screen is former world featherweight champion Barry McGuigan, who will follow in the footsteps of Frank Bruno and appear in pantomime this Christmas. McGuigan will join Irish comedian Frank Carson in a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Well, McGuigan was saying he's a bit steamed up by some of the things that McDonnell said at an early press conference.
"38 years ago, on August the 8th, 1952, Jake Tooley, who was once a choir boy at St. Mary's in Johannesburg, travelled to Britain to challenge Teddy Gardner for the British Empire flyweight title. Tooley's purse was a mere £200, but his victory in the 12th round made him an instant success in British boxing. Recently, Jake Tooley and his business associate Frank Dobbs took a trip down memory lane, retracing some of the steps while on a visit to London. We spoke to the men in downtown Johannesburg.
To start off with, I was walking with Frank down the road. Then he says, no, we're coming from this station, Piccadilly or wherever. We're passing Cambridge Circus. Then I stopped. I said, but where is Cambridge Circus? He says, we've only just passed it. I says, I didn't see no Cambridge Circus. Not to the Cambridge Circus I knew was a big roundabout, and just round the corner, my very first gymnasium. I started looking. I said, I can't even see the gymnasium and things like that. I thought, this is not the London I know. Then we went to Piccadilly Circus at night. Piccadilly in my day was all bright and, you know, those adverts, so-and-so shining and dimming, shining and dimming, bright around it, but it's not the same. It's gone very, very dark nowadays. I looked at it at night, I said, no, it's not the same place. London is not the same place anymore.
He was classed as a celebrity, which I was really amazed. The people that wanted his autograph, the old-time professional fighters that are still alive in the Northeast, who Jake was their idol. The working men's clubs in particular, the Alton Manor Club, which is a very popular club in West Hartlepool, the home of Teddy Gardner, gave him a tremendous reception. They also presented him with a plaque presented by the Alton Manor Club for his services to professional boxing in the 50s.
During his trip, Jake Tully met some of his old opponents.
Oh, and I was happy when I met Bowers. Bowers seems to be all right. He's a beautiful, good trainer. He knows about training. Well, I saw him in the gym, and invited me to come in the next day, dressed up because they were going to open that gymnasium officially, with the Boxing Board of Control people and everybody. The mayor was there, and that was a beautiful day. But they made up a dinner for me and everything, and they treated me like a god, I'm telling you. I thought I must have left this world, I don't know. Yeah.
We spoke to Jake about his last flyweight fight against Honor Pretisi in London.
Honor Pretisi gave me a very, very hard fight. Up to then, I'd never fought 10 rounds, you know, finished 10 rounds, 12 rounds, 15 rounds, and I went the whole 10 rounds, and it was toe-to-toe with Pretisi. He was a very, very strong fighter. And if they had lifted his hand up, I would have agreed. If they had lifted his hand up, I would have said, well, that's all right, he's won the fight. Because I was knocking them out, you know, left, right, and center. You know my record in South Africa, even before I went overseas.
And we finally solved the mystery as to why Jake Tully made a comeback 8 years after he retired.
It's a funny story. I was training youngsters in Noordgezig, and then this one says, this is a bit too hard for me, this is a bit this is that, this is the other. I says, all right, to prove it to you, I will strip off, get into my tracksuit, come and pick me up tomorrow morning, we're going on a road work. I'll get a fight for you, I'll get a fight for me, I'll get a fight for the other fellow, and so on and so on. So I got fights for 2, 3 fellows at a time, and I was there. They said, you'll never do it. I said, I'll do it. Maybe even better than you, but I still think I can do it. So that's how I went back after 8 years in retirement.
In Pagliara, Italië, het die IBF junior topgewig kampioen Roberto Quiroga te veel skietgoed gehad vir Vuyani Wonderboy Nene. Na 'n katastrofiese eerste ronde, toe hy plat was vir die telling van 8, het hy redelik goed herstel in die tweede. Quiroga het weer die druk toegepas in die derde en na 'n geweldige linker hakhou wat hom neergevel het Nene dit net gemaak tot aan die einde van die ronde. Die klein Suid-Afrikanertjie kon nie vir die begin van die vierde ronde uit sy hoek kom nie en Quiroga het met 'n tegniese uitklaphou gewen.
In Paris, France, IBF middleweight champion Michael Nunn took on former welterweight champion Donald Curry and gave him a boxing lesson for 10 rounds. Curry tried hard to come to terms with Nunn's superior reach and blinding hand speed by moving to the body, but Nunn counterpunched beautifully. By the 10th round, Curry's task was looking hopeless, and when Nunn trapped him on the ropes, a barrage of blows put him on the canvas for the second time in the fight.
En op zijn knie nog een laatste hou.
In Johannesburg het Jackie Gunguluza, die Suid-Afrikaanse veergewigkampioen, sy 4 doop teen 'n oorseese teestander met vleiende vaandels deurgekom toe hy teen Nelson Rodriguez geveg het. Rodriguez het baie vinnig begin en dit het Gunguluza 'n paar rondes geneem om sy ritme en teiken te vind. Die sleutel tot die geveg was Gunguluza se besluit om van 'n afstand af te boks en Rodriguez geen slaangeleentheid in die binnengevegte te bied.
Although Rodriguez made a bold attempt to regain control of the fight in the 10th round, he was clearly behind on points, and Gundaluza was awarded a unanimous decision. In Glasgow, Scotland, local hero Donny Hood, in ponytailed and tartan trunks, pulled out all the stops in his WBC International Bantamweight title fight with defending champion Samuel Duran of the Philippines. Hood made an impressive start and looked to be comfortably ahead on points by the halfway stage, but Duran fought back strongly in the late rounds to close the gap. There were anxious moments as the men awaited the decision and a roar of approval when Hood was awarded the title on points.
Buster Douglas hier red hier Evander Holyfield. 246.
Buster Douglas het in Las Vegas, Nevada, sy wêreld swaargewigtitel die eerste keer verdedig teen die uitdager Evander Holyfield. Douglas was net 'n skaduwee van die man wat Mike Tyson in Tokio vernietig het en was veral baie oorgewig. Holyfield het baie punte ingesamel deur van agter sy reguit linker te boks en toe het hy in die derde ronde vir Douglas plat op sy rug laat beland na 'n suiwer reg.
Daar is die rechter op die kant. Rechter op die kant en sien daar dat Douglas het probeer met daar die rechter opstopper van dan en 'n rechter vastgeloop van Holyfield. Dis die einde van die geveg.
Oh ja, dit was blitsig en sy plan het gewerk.
Dan as ons weer na daardie kliphouse kyk nou, sal jy sien daar dat Douglas het probeer met 'n regte opstopper. Voor die weeg sy linkerhand het baie laag gehang en Holyfield het dit dadelik raak gesien en die regterhand was op die kant gedoen.
Daar was so 'n halfhartige poging van James Buster Douglas om op te staan. Nadat hy neergesuig op die kruik. Uit de andere hoek uit. Hier komt die opstopper, die rechter opstopper van...
En dit was de linkerhand van Douglas.
Helemaal hier langs sy. En dit is een enkel hou wat die grote lichaam van James Buster Douglas laat neersuig kry toe. Weer uit de andere hoek uit.
Je kan zien duidelijk dat Holyfield het daardie opening...
Well, Dion, I wonder if heavyweight boxing will ever be the same after that. With $24 million in the bank, Buster Douglas seemed totally disinterested in the fight.
Dit is 'n baie belangrike punt, dink ek, en miskien het die tyd aangebreek dat gevegte weer so beslis word dat die wenner van 'n geveg al die geld neem. Dit is tog iets wat al gebeur het in die verlede en miskien is dit 'n goeie punt om te onthou in die toekoms om dalk weer so 'n bietjie positiwiteit in die bokskry terug te bring.
Not a bad idea, Dion. See you at the fights.
Totsiens.